everybody. Thank you so much for joining me and listening to what I would like to share with you. I was teaching a class this morning in one of my groups, and I was teaching on the topic of repeating relationship patterns that can show up in our lives. And so that's what I wanted to share with you today. So that being said, hey Mark. That being said, there are many different variables of this, and so I wanted to say that first, just with the most respect, that if you're struggling with something, I hope that this information helps you and assists you. And I want to precursor it just by saying that there are many variables to painful relationships, and I'm going to be speaking about one specific type. And that is, if you are somebody that's suffering from a painful relationship pattern that tends to show up in your life repetitively, then this information can help you. So what I'm going to share with you right now can help you, especially if you see a painful relationship pattern that repeats in your life, or if you've been feeling you've been kind of stuck in an emotional state for a long period of time, even though different people in your life sort of come in and come out. So if you've been feeling, for example, in a very chaotic, emotional state, but you're just having continual chaotic relationships in your life, whether they come from your work or your personal relationships or whatever, but you're sort of in this momentum of being in a sort of a disharmonious emotional state for a long period of time. So again, this information is especially helpful for people who experience repeating relationship cycles that are not bringing them happiness, that they're struggling with, that bring you pain, that are conflicted, or that are full of drama. And these relationship patterns and cycles tend to repeat in your life. So I wanted to be very specific about that, because the topic of painful relationships is extremely broad, and I don't want to be dismissive of your individual situation. And I wanted to be specific that this is especially good for you if you experience repeated relationship patterns. In other words, maybe you find yourself in a primary relationship where your primary partner is constantly putting you down. Or maybe you find yourself constantly getting jobs where you're working for people who are narcissistic and don't give you credit for your work. Or maybe you find yourself in friendships with people that you don't feel like you're ever listened to. That's what I'm talking about. So it's like there's a repeating theme that you're seeing show up in your life over and over again in these ways. And so through this work and through this topic that I want to share with you today, what I'm going to be encouraging you to do is to be self-reflective, because if there's a repeating relationship pattern in your life, the chances are really high that you're playing a part in that somehow. And that it's not something that's just happenstance and is happening to you. For some reason, you are attracted to that situation. For some reason, you're recreating that pattern in your life. And so this information can help you to become conscious of how you're creating it, so that you can remove yourself and you can create something better. And that's more in alignment with who you are and what you want. All right, so I think that I've given a lot of clarity on who this can help and specifically who it's for. So let's get into the steps, of which there are 4 specific steps. So the first step is to just calm down. So a lot of times when we have like some kind of a drama or an upheaval in our life, it makes us feel very reactive. And when we react to something, we feel out of control, and we're just and we also feel victimized. Like whatever is happening to us is happening to us. It's out of our control and we're reacting to it. So the first thing that you want to do is to calm down. And there are many different ways to calm down. I teach my clients breathing practices, and you could just easily just breathe in and out and just be mindful and pay attention to your breath. And just by doing that one simple practice, you'll experience your nervous system calm down so that you'll get yourself out of a reactive state. The next part is to take an inventory. So to take an inventory of your current relationships in your life and your relationship history where this pattern has shown up. So like literally, I would suggest grabbing a piece of paper and a pen and just writing down where these relationship patterns are showing up. So if it's a parent, if it's a sibling, if it's your friend, whoever it is. And then to also write down and record how it's making you feel. That's actually a really, really key, important piece of this, is how it's making you feel. And we'll get into that even more in a little bit. So is it making you feel rejected? Is it making you feel taken advantage of? Does it make you feel dismissed, not listened to, anxious, angry, betrayed? You know, whatever these like specific thinking emotions are, you definitely want to write that down and pay attention to it, because that's going to be the pathway that we can follow to get to the root, is actually through the emotional state that these experiences are generating in you. So after you've calmed down and you've taken an inventory of the people in your life that are making you feel this way, you want to stop victimizing yourself. So you want to stop victimizing yourself. So I know that this doesn't mean that people aren't doing bad things to you or have done bad things to you. It means that you are going to take 100% responsibility for your recovery and for the reclamation of yourself. You're no longer going to give this other person or these people your power. You're no longer going to put the responsibility of your recovery or your pain in the hands of somebody else. You're going to commit to getting better, and you're gonna make that recovery your own personal agenda. So that's what it means to stop victimizing yourself. It also means to stop victimizing yourself. Also means to start to understand, what it is that's attracting you to the situation. What is it about the situation that's keeping you engaged in it? So somebody may be very dissatisfied with a primary relationship in their life and say that the person isn't treating them very well and is even treating them terribly. But then the next question is, why are they staying in it? Why are they actually staying in the relationship? Why don't they just get up and leave? And so in order to stop victimizing yourself, which would be to be saying that this relationship is bringing you all this pain and this relationship is doing all this terrible stuff to you, but yet you're staying in it, which is in a sense victimizing yourself, is to become conscious and to become aware of why it is that you're attracted to the relationship. What are you getting out of it? Why are you staying engaged? So I have found in my experience in working with people that there's 3 primary reasons why a person will stay engaged in a relationship that is making them feel bad. So the first one is conditioning. So where a person has been conditioned to think that relationship is normal, or even if they don't think that they don't think it's conceptually normal, it feels normal. So the way that something can feel normal usually comes through childhood, or where you've been habitually exposed to something for a long period of time, that it gives you like a baseline sense of normalcy for you. So for example, let's say you are somebody who felt a lot of anxiety and rejection as a child from your primary parent, because the conditioning, a lot of the conditioning type stuff does come from family and does come from childhood usually. So let's say you grew up in a family situation, or let's say you had several profound experiences with your primary caregivers that gave you an experience of anxiety or rejection or nervousness. So that feeling could have become normalized to you. So then as an adult, you get attracted to situations or relationships that generate anxiety, rejection, or nervousness. So it's not that you it's not that you necessarily believe that it's normal conceptually, but physiologically in your body and because of your experiences growing up, it's conditioned you to feel normal. So it's almost like a mistake of understanding what genuine love is or genuine safety is. So when you're looking at and taking this inventory and you ask yourself, like, what are the feelings? You know, what are the feelings of the situation? What is it giving me? If it's giving you a feeling of anxiety or rejection or betrayal, is to think about, when else did I experience this in my life? You know, when else did this show up? Because that can give you very powerful information about why or how you're attracted to that as an adult. The next really common reason that people may stay in relationships that aren't making them feel very good past the point of, you know, when they should, is because of trauma, because of traumas. So a trauma could be something like, you know, maybe somebody dies suddenly. Maybe there was an accident and it changed everything. Maybe there was a sudden financial loss. Maybe there was a betrayal, infidelity, an attack, abuse. All those things sort of fall into the category of a trauma. So as human beings, everybody actually has a natural desire within them to heal and to become whole and to become happy. But if we aren't conscious of, you know, of this desire to heal, we can recreate situations in our life that replay and reenact that trauma out as a desire, an unconscious desire to want to heal and to become whole. So let's say, for example, you are, and when you're younger, maybe like somebody suddenly dies, or there's like a huge shift into your life that changes absolutely everything. And so it's this huge trauma. It may be then as an adult, you recreate something like a financial crisis or something as a way to, you're actually subconsciously trying to follow the experience into its completion in order to heal it. Or, you know, sometimes people who are abused may recreate an abusive relationship as an adult as a way to process it, and actually the desire is to want to heal, is to want to follow it all the way through to the end and to want to heal. So this is all unconscious. It's all unconscious. And so the problem with doing it unconsciously is that in the process of recreating those experiences, you re-traumatize yourself. You create more drama, you create more pain for yourself, and you actually re-traumatize yourself along the way. So we don't want to do that. You know, we don't want to do that. What we want to do is, you know, become conscious, you know, to become conscious of these unconscious motivators and these impulses that we have inside of us, so that we can heal in a more integrated and a softer and kinder way than in a way that's constantly re-traumatizing ourselves. So after, you know, you've committed to no longer victimizing yourself and to become a conscious initiator into creating healing for yourself and your life, you want to be able to trace back the roots of these repeating patterns. And so the way that you can do that, one way you can do that, is after you've taken the inventory and you've looked at like what's going on currently. So again, if it's something that's going on with your work, or something that's going on with your friendships, or something that's going on with your primary relationship, and you've written down these common feeling words, and taken an inventory of how they're actually making you feel, you can ask, you know, okay, I see what's happening right now. When did I feel like this before? So for example, let's just say I am married to somebody and I feel like my husband is constantly putting me down, and he doesn't listen to me, and he devalues me. So then I could ask myself, okay, when was there somebody before my husband that made me feel this way? And then it's like, oh, okay, I think it was my high school boyfriend made me feel this way. And then was there somebody before that? So what you're doing is you're following back the pattern to the root. You're following the pattern back to the root. And you can do this with, a lot of times when I work with clients that have, work situations where they're, not treated very well. Oftentimes it's not the first one. And you could do this with primary relationships, friendships, any pattern that repeats itself in your relationships. So after you've gotten to the origin, whatever it is, maybe it was your first high school girlfriend, or maybe it was a parent, or maybe it was a trauma. That's where that's where you want to center a lot of the healing work around. That's where you want to do the healing work, of which case the opportunities are plentiful. There's many ways to heal the root. So some of the things that I do in my practice include mindset training. So how you're actually choosing to focus your mind and what you're choosing to think about, and how you're choosing to interpret the event in your life. So there's something that's called resiliency or post-traumatic growth. So you've probably heard of post-traumatic stress. That's actually a very popular term, where somebody becomes traumatized after something that happens in their life. But there's also something that's called post-traumatic growth, and it's not uncommon. About 30% of people that go through some kind of a major trauma, trauma like a war or attack or rape or something like that, 30% of people grow after the trauma. They accelerate, they thrive after the trauma. And when researchers have looked at that, what are the similarities in those people? Why do they grow? They found similar common themes. And one of the biggest one was on how that person just determined to interpret what it meant in their life. And so you can decide to consciously reinterpret the event in your life in a way that gives you strength, in a way that empowers you, in a way that that does not victimize you. And that comes from focusing, so how you choose to focus and how you choose to actually think about the event that happened to you. The other thing that you want to do is to pay attention to how your relationships are actually making you feel. So I had a client that said that every single one of her primary relationships, when we were doing this work with each other, she's like, wow, this is so amazing, because I realized that every single one of my primary relationships in my life began with a period of rejection, and it made me feel very anxious and nervousness and worried, which actually came from a significant childhood experience that she had. So because it was normalized in her childhood, it became normalized in her adulthood, and then she just naturally gravitated to it. But through just becoming aware, like, oh wow, this relationship actually makes me this anxious and worried and nervous, which was once normal to me, but now I understand is actually a warning. This is a warning. This is telling me this is not right. And to follow relationships that give you emotions of safety, and give you relationships of trust, and give you emotions of love. So it's to follow your feeling, and to follow what feels good, and to pay attention when a relationship, which oftentimes is very early on, is giving you many warnings, that don't go down this road. So to pay attention to that, which sometimes can get skewed again through these childhood experiences or trauma. The other thing is through focusing. So, and this goes back to mindset training and how you're allowing yourself to interpret the event in your life, which when there's trauma, this gets more difficult to do. And I understand that, but with consistent effort, you can. Basically, it's like, how are you choosing the thoughts that you're choosing to ascribe it? So the more that you think a fearful, worried, anxious, angry thought, the more that your entire physiology actually re-experiences that. And that impacts your digestion, and it impacts all the hormonal and physiological processes in your body. So a calm, safe, happy thought produces a totally different chemical reaction in your body than a fearful, angry, stressed out one. So I have found in my practice that the biggest bridge to getting to a happy place is gratitude. Gratitude. And so if you don't think that you have anything in your life to be grateful for right now, you've got to find something small. So you got to start somewhere. So sometimes what I'll do, and I do this practice every single day, and the more that you get yourself into a blissful state, which in yoga, that's our natural state, is to be happy, the more better things are going to happen in your life. You'll be attracted to a higher caliber of relationships. You'll be more averse to the things and people that make you feel bad. And so getting yourself into that feeling good state is really important. And gratitude is a great link into it. So in the morning, something that you could do is just, be in your bed and just feel how good it is to be in your bed. Feel how safe you feel, be grateful for how safe you feel, and it's warm, and just feel that feeling of safety. And once you get into that feeling of safety, then you can start to think of maybe something a little bit more that you feel grateful for. Whatever it is, the use of your body, or the relationship that you have, or the weather outside, or whatever it is. So that becomes really important to do that. And once you're in, the more that you're in that grateful state of being, the more that you're going to be able to create grateful experiences in your life. Another thing is ancestral healing, which I know that may sound a little bit esoteric, perhaps, but ancestral healing is something that has been done, in many different cultures all over the world. And basically, it's this idea or this teaching that we can pass down experiences through the family line. That things that our ancestors have gone through and experienced impact us, and to honor that somehow. And so that is, that's something that's talked about a lot in something that's called epigenetics, which is the scientific study of how the environment impacts our DNA and our genes. So we used to think that we were born with a set DNA code, but now we know that our genes get flipped on or off depending on the external experiences in our environment. And the way that actually really came into researchers' awareness was through looking how the Holocaust survivors had higher incidences of anxiety and depression, and they traced it back to their ancestors' experience of the Holocaust. So doing ancestral healing can not only alleviate you of traumas, but can also alleviate your ancestors and your next of kin. And so, really, if you're struggling with something, you could also look at, hey, did my mother or my father suffer from this problem? Or did their mother or father suffer from this problem? Because if they have, it may be something that's being passed through the ancestral line. And you can, do things that are very simple, just like putting up their picture or speaking to them or honoring them. And there are many other practices that you can do too. And we do those at Hamza, and I also do those at a distance with people too. And also ritual. Ritual is really important, which again is another kind of an esoteric word that maybe makes you think of witchcraft. But rituals are something that people do all the time. A wedding is a ritual. And so a ritual is basically doing some kind of making some kind of an external observation, usually using objects or intention to facilitate the transformation of how you're perceiving something in your life, which again is key in that resiliency training, resiliency stuff also, where you're committing to changing the way that you are perceiving something that is happening in your life. So the marriage ceremony is an example of a ritual where after that ritual, the woman is a wife and the man is a husband. So that's just one example. If you're doing it to facilitate emotional healing, you could do something very simple but very profound. Maybe you write a letter to somebody of all these words that you've had trapped inside of you that you never got to speak. And you don't ever have to read it to them directly, but you could read it, write it, just feel it, the emotion of it, read it out loud, then rip it up or burn it, and then you could bury the ashes in your backyard, and you could commit that once you're done doing this process, that you have buried and you have let go of this emotional baggage or pain. That is a ritual. So that is doing something where you're using different elements to transform your interpretation and your attachment to this experience that has happened in your life. And so when we do healings and we do programs here at Hamza, or when I work with clients all over the world virtually, whether that's for things that are emotional blocks or mental tendencies or physical issues, like even digestive issues, I always include an element of ritual because it's something that I've noticed and observed in my practice to really accelerate the psychological transformation that is absolutely necessary whenever you're working to shift lifestyle. Even if you're working to shift diet, like if you've tried to go on a diet before and you've experienced resistance, then there's the really high chances that you have, psychological, emotional attachments to food that are preventing you from adopting and maintaining those practices. So you can even use rituals to help with that, to shifting your relationship with food. So thank you so much for your time today, and I hope that this information aids you on your path. If you need help with a digestive issue, or you would like a customized detox program and you're interested in our services here at Hamza, or in working with me at a distance, I specialize in helping people with digestive related issues, autoimmune issues, skin disorders. I'd be happy to talk with you. So you could direct message me if you are interested. Thank you, and I hope that this information aids you on your path. Thanks.